Welcome to the session on enabling self-service IT. We're so glad that you're here. It's been a challenging time for all of us in the last few months, and today we live in a new normal. But IT is even more needed and in demand. Once again, we're so thankful that IT heroes like you have joined us today. I am Mayank Gupta, and I lead the product marketing for AI Ops and automation at Nutanix. And as your host today, I will navigate you through the sessions. And in a moment, you will hear our executive having a conversation with one of our valued customer about enabling IT self-service. Then, in a while, I'll take you into a deep dive on what does enabling IT self-service mean. There is a Q&A tab on the right-hand side of the panel, and please submit any questions, and we will answer them throughout the session. Now, I'd like to introduce Aditya Sood, GM for Nutanix Com, a dynamic leader here at Nutanix, and an expert in automation and cloud-native technologies. Please welcome Aditya Sood.
Thank you, Mayank. As the Vice President and General Manager for Com and Carbon, I look after the products and engineering and the go-to-market. And to talk further more about these products and more extensive products, the other Nutanix products, we have a very esteemed customer with us, Anibal. Anibal's been at Daimler Mercedes-Benz for close to 14 years of extensive experience, and he works as an IT infrastructure architect. Welcome, Anibal. Thank you for joining us. Could you give us a brief background about yourself?
I work here in Brazil at Mercedes-Benz. In Brazil, we have 3 operations for Mercedes. We produce truck and buses, cars, and have a bank also. I'm responsible for server storage operation for the trucks and buses production. Here, I take care about the 3 plants. 2 plants are production ones that have production of the truck and the bus, and a third one that's a plant dedicated for spare parts and training. We have a really big environment here in Brazil.
Thank you, Anibal. So from the description you gave, it looks like it's a significantly complicated environment, which is how large-scale environments tend to be: multiple data centers, high uptime requirements, lots of moving pieces. So I would imagine a lot of operational complexity. How has Nutanix helped you in dealing with your operational complexity?
For you to understand, here in Brazil, in the operation, we have also mainframe operation and some legacy system running on the infrastructure and the virtualized environment. And we focus on Nutanix to help us with innovation here. We are driving a lot of innovations, for example, DevOps implementation here, GitLab, Hadoop, and we are focused on these new tools to run on Nutanix and see great values on it.
That sounds interesting, and we have also noticed that reducing the operational complexity is part one, that the second part is usually automation, because you want to take the complexity away forever. How has your experience been with Nutanix in the automation stack?
Yeah, I have a good experience, I can tell you. Basically, Principal Pro comes with a lot of tools that are really interesting and help us with the automation. One is Calm, that are really interesting, that you can create a blueprints that can help, for example, the developers to have a machine to develop a new tool or test something. For example, we in the blueprints have a Hadoop cluster or a LAMP or Apache or MySQL. If the developers, for example, need a MySQL without automation, they need to ask for someone to install a Linux machine, for example, and a DBA install the MySQL, configure, and provide to this developer. With Calm, I can automate that. They can request by your own MySQL server. Just a few clicks, they put a name, a password, press OK. Wait a few minutes, a machine are available with MySQL. And if they don't need this machine anymore, they just press another button, the machine will be deleted. They have the power under your hands. Don't need that to request that someone create and work for that. It's really helpful for us. And also, I have experience with Carbon. That's a really nice tool that is really interesting in the automation that they do.
Thank you. It's interesting you bring up carbon because one of the things we have noticed over the last 2 years is that Kubernetes has hit the inflection point in enterprise and more workloads are moving there. So what are you starting your DevOps journey with Kubernetes? What are your plans there and how does carbon play into that?
We see that containers is the new tendency for all the industries, for developers, that they create a small container, we save resources on the computer, make more elastic if the workload are requesting. And before to use Carbon, I create a Kubernetes cluster by my own, installing Linux, etcd, Docker, and configure Carbon. Is really terrible to do that. It's a high force to install and configure, customize that. After that, you need to think about upgrades. It's terrible to upgrade manually by your hand. And I look into tools that can automate that. And I see that exists Carbon in Nutanix. So I need time to study that. I need to learn a little about, but it's quite simple. With a few clicks, few information, IP address, cluster name, and few informations, create deploy, and a cluster deploy in 20 minutes, less than that. And these are working fine. And another point that's really interesting, if I need to create a new node, just ask for this new node, provide IP address, wait a few minutes, and a new machine are included in the node. At last, the most important, the updates. It's amazing. We have when Nutanix provide a new update, appears, we have a new and the Kubernetes image or Carbon update. Just download that, upgrade, wait a few months, and it's done. It's upgraded. When in the last version, without any problem. It's really, really good.
It's amazing to hear because we here at Nutanix, we take a lot of pain about upgrades because we think that's where a lot of the complexity comes from. But I'd like to ask a different kind of question. And we know everyone knows about COVID-19 now, and it has really roiled the world up. It has changed a lot of things, and Brazil has been impacted by COVID-19 as well. So can you take us through some experience on how COVID-19 has impacted your team's work, remote work? Did having any sort of automation or hyper-converged things make a difference? And what are your plans going forward in that? How do you foresee running your teams and infrastructure in this new remote work world?
COVID-19 is a big challenge because before that, everyone goes to the office. It's normal here that you work in office, not in home office. And now everyone are working from home office. And we see that we need to do some more automation because if the people are not working together, maybe some mistakes comes on the implementation of system because normally some cases we use the 4 eyes, 2 guys doing the same implementation, but these guys are sitting together. And now from everyone from home, it's not so simple to do that, and some mistakes maybe comes. And we see that with automation we can fix that and improve the environment. That few clicks, I script do the same thing a lot of times that you want.
Yes, I would agree. This is certainly a lot of things will change. I think we have time for one more question. Do you see or have any plans for going multi or hybrid cloud using both on-premises as well as public clouds? And what does your strategy look like there?
Yes, we see that in the near future we can go to multi-cloud. We have internally in German, but here in Brazil not yet. But we are evaluation. We have some demands running on cloud, a lot of demands running on premises, but we are taking a look at how we can put this both together, this new multi-cloud world. I think that in the near future.
Thank you, Annibal. That was a very interesting conversation. Thank you for spending time with us, sharing your insights and experience with our other viewers, and I'm sure all of them will benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Back to you, Mayank.
Before I begin, I wanted to ask you, would it surprise you if I told you that 30% of organizations are looking to reduce cost in the next 4 years for their HCI systems building on automation, especially during these times? I don't think it would surprise you. Everybody is trying to reduce cost, and the intuitive and first step to do that is via automation. The reason many of you are on the call here is that as IT teams, you realize that you have to deploy and manage a lot of resources. This could be remote services, or this could be infrastructure. And you have to deliver them to a myriad set of end user teams, from virtualization teams to database teams. And often there are several teams trying to do that, which leads to, with different SLAs, which leads to often days, weeks, and in some egregious cases, even months to deliver and deploy infrastructure. This is obviously not the ideal scenario. This is where automation and self-service can come in to actually make your teams a lot more agile. By streamlining the resource delivery via automation and by enabling self-service for your IT team so that they can provision infrastructure in a much quicker manner by self-servicing, you can definitely reduce the response time from months to hours and minutes in some cases. And this is the utopia we are actually trying to drive to. In fact, let's talk about how at Nutanix we are powering a consumer-grade IT as a service, which is powered by intelligent automation. Today, hopefully, I'll share with you how you can, with intelligent automation and self-service, not only you can drive an efficient usage of your resources, but also deliver better quality of services and provide on-demand access to your IT teams. The three pillars for today's talk would be automated optimization, where we talk about optimization for your infrastructure, how you can use AI-powered remediation to quickly optimize resources across your infrastructure. And then we'll talk about applications, with self-service of applications powered by a marketplace. And we'll also talk about how to deploy these applications across multiple clouds and yet have an eye on the cost and governance at all single times. So the first step in automation comes in around creating operational automation. Now, many of you are dealing with infrastructure issues all the time. If you could build automation into that, such that an automation step could identify a trigger or be set off by a trigger, and then you could take a set of actions. Maybe you can define what the set of actions would be. And once this quote unquote automation is up and running in your infrastructure, the next time that trigger comes in, you as the end user don't have to manually intervene, and the machine will take care of these things. That is the level of automation that can actually benefit your business lines. Let me go into a little more details on what I'm speaking, right? When you can transform intelligent signals from your infrastructure into automated set of actions, when you can do that in a very simple manner, let's say through a codeless playbook, and when you can combine a whole set of actions into a single click, your businesses can scale. Your admins can be a lot more agile, and they can not be worried by an alert storm all the single times, and they can actually focus on delivering business outcomes. And once that can all be done with ITSM tools such as ServiceNow, that makes your automation a lot more powerful. That sounds exciting, doesn't it? Let me talk about how do we go about implementing it. So when it comes to alerts and triggers, we want to have a whole set of actions, a whole set of triggers available to you. So you can see the alerts can be from your infrastructure, but you also can have manual alerts when you want to run this automation at a particular time or even by your click. We also have webhooks where you can tie this with certain events that are happening outside. And you can also schedule these alerts. By doing that, you as the end user get to decide when these automated actions are taking place. Which brings us to the more interesting part. What are the set of actions available to you? So here at Nutanix, we provide you with a whole suite of actions that you can take. Now, I won't go into all these set of actions, but you can see some important ones, such as powering off VMs or powering them on, adding hot memory or adding vCPUs to your VMs. Those are the set of actions that can actually make automation a lot more powerful. The astute user, you will also see that we have integration with your REST APIs, so that if you have existing PowerShell scripts or if you have API calls that you want to make, you can run automations with that as well. You can also send it to ServiceNow, so your alerts and actions can go to your ITSM tool of choice. So once you have a set of actions and once you have triggers to deploy those actions, how would your automation look like? Let me show you a concrete example. So here's an example of we, and many of you who manage IT infrastructure would face this into day-to-day life, where the VMs are constrained for memory. And what is happening in this instance is we have created a playbook where you get an alert that a particular VM is constrained for memory. We take a VM snapshot, we power it off, we add memory to it, we power it on, and then we resolve the alert. And because we want checks and balances, we even send you an email. This could be a Slack message where you get notified that a certain action was taken. But this is the power of automation. All these 6 steps, which would have required you to click and interact with the VM or interact with Prism or any of your management console, now that has been automated and running in the background. That is the level of automation our teams, our customers have really enjoyed. There are more examples where you can receive cluster reports or schedule automation at a particular time or integrate with your ticketing tools. The set of things that you can automate are honestly unlimited here. So we talked about infrastructure now. Now let's talk about application automation. And that's where the self-service and a marketplace comes in. Let's talk about marketplace. What is this? So at Nutanix, we create a marketplace so that your end users can self-provision applications. Now, you'll see a lot of popular applications here. Applications such as deploying VMs. This could be CentOS or SUSE Linux, or even Chef, Postgres databases. But the beauty of a marketplace is that you can publish your own applications on this marketplace so that your end users can self-provision these custom applications. And because these are custom applications, you'll have a same set of applications across your organization, leading to a better consistency. So once your end user goes into a marketplace, they can review and launch an application. So here's an example of an end user launching a Hadoop application, and he will have an eye on what exact resources does he need to deploy this application. And once he launches that application, you can see how the application looks like when it's up and running, the VMs it's using, and also the resources it's going to consume. The other advantage of self-service is that now your end users can actually manage the lifecycle of that application all by themselves. They can take actions such as scaling out the application in case there are more demands of that application, or even stopping or restarting that applications as their need demands. Obviously, we want to show a lot more, and you will see a lot more of these in the demo that precedes. One very important aspect of self-service is the ability to have an audit, because as your end users are deploying these applications, we want to make sure that you're always aware of who's taking what actions. So at Nutanix, we offer you the capability of logging every actions so that you can share that with your security teams and you can export these logs for future references. One last thing which I wanted to share with you, that self-service should also be backed up by a showback. And what I mean by showback is that building in checks and balances so that you always know that what resources are being used across applications as well as projects. So we have built in cost showback built into your application delivery mechanism so that you can see how many dollars are being spent on each application and each project so that you can keep your teams honest, frankly, and make sure that resources are not being wasted. Last but not the least, I also wanted to make sure that you know that we can run these applications on the private cloud or any of the public clouds available out there. You can use VMs to run your applications or even use containers. And we realized that automation often entails integration with a lot more vendors. So we have APIs and plugins for integration into ServiceNow, Ansible, Jenkins, and a lot more, because we know that you might have your existing scripts that you want to use with Nutanix to build in this ecosystem of automation. So in summary, as you just saw, intelligent automation and self-service can truly transform an organization. I wanted to share a story with you which recently happened with one of our very large retail customer. Because of the pandemic, they had to shut down almost 600 of their robo-site locations. And they wanted to deploy an application across all the 600 sites where very few people could go there. And once they used the application self-service and they built a blueprint for that, they were able to deploy this new application across all of their 600 sites with very minimal expert requirements. And that was the power of automation. And the customer actually came back to us and said, hey, this level of automation really made a lot of sense, especially in this pandemic for us. So that is an example of how once automation rightly done can be a very powerful tool for any IT organization. So as I leave you today, I definitely want to leave you with 3 thoughts: that application self-service can truly deliver infrastructure as a service. Once you operate operations, you can actually recoup standard capacity and make sure that with playbooks, you can automate a lot of tasks into a single click. And with cost governance and audit capabilities, you're also making sure that your costs are always reined in. Plus, you're always aware of what is happening in your organization. Finally, we definitely want you to try out automation at Nutanix. So I suggest that you try and join the test drive live, which will happen just after the session and the day.
안녕하세요. 뉴타닉스 코리아의 이승용 이사,
양성태 차장입니다.
발표 영상 잘 보셨나요? 셀프 서비스 IT, 자동화, 모두 최근 많은 관심을 가지게 되는 내용입니다. 저희가 다양한 고객분들을 많이 만나면서 그동안 많이 듣고 또 질문을 받았던 내용들을 말씀드리려고 합니다. 첫 번째 질문 좀 드릴게요. 최근 다양한 곳에서 자동화라는 부분이 많이 언급되고 있습니다. IT 환경에서도 다양한 방법으로 자동화를 고려하고 있고 솔루션들도 제공되는데 뉴타닉스에서 말하는 자동화의 범위가 무엇일까요?
네, 우선 크게 2가지로 설명을 드릴 수 있을 것 같습니다. 첫 번째로는 IT 인프라 운영에 대한 자동화입니다. 특히 이슈와 문제 해결을 위해서 자동화를 하려는 고객들이 많고요. 저희 뉴타닉스에서는 프리즘 프로라고 하는 기능을 통해서 운영 자동화를 하실 수가 있습니다. 그리고 반복적인 작업들을 자동화로 처리함으로써 관리자나 운영자는 보다 중요한 업무에 시간을 많이 쓰실 수 있고요. 비즈니스를 위해서 집중할 수 있는 그런 기회를 가져가실 수가 있습니다. 2번째로는 애플리케이션에 대한 배포와 관리 자동화 환경을 제공하고 있습니다. IT 관리자는 사용자의 요청을 받게 되면 VM을 생성하고요. OS를 설치하고 애플리케이션을 설치하고 그런 작업들을 반복해서 하고 있습니다. 현대화된 IT 인프라, 나의 IT 인프라 환경을 클라우드처럼 사용할 수 있도록 사용자는 필요한 애플리케이션을 직접 선택하고 배포할 수 있도록 환경을 만들어 드리고 있고요. 그걸 저희 뉴타닉스 프리즘 환경에서 쉽게 운영하실 수가 있습니다.
그러면 언급하신 것처럼 그 운영 자동화는 중요하고 최근 많은 도구들이 있는 것 같은데요. 뉴타닉스의 운영 자동화, 엑스플레이라는 것의 특징이 무엇입니까?
네, 저희 엑스플레이라고 하는 거는 어떻게 보면 이제 운영 자동화 측면에서 제공되는 기능이고요. 자동으로 이제 많은 작업들을 설정하시고 반복되는 작업들을 수행할 수 있도록 제공을 하고 있습니다. 많은 고객들이 많은 시간을 쓰면서 자동화를 지금 수행을 하고 있는데요. 그러다 보니까 복잡성이 증가되고 그리고 사용자는 또 자동화를 위해서 많은 시간을 써야 되고 있어요. 그러다 보니까 쉽게 자동화를 구성하고 설정할 생각을 많이 못하고 계신 게 이제 가장 큰 문제가 될 수 있고요. 저희 뉴타닉스 프리즘 엑스플레이는 정말 몇 번의 클릭으로 쉽게 자동화를 구성하실 수 있고요. 반복된 작업을 줄이실 수가 있습니다. 특히 이제 외부 API를 호출하거나 스케줄대로 설정을 하고 얼럿이나 이벤트 기반으로 다양한 트리거를 생성해서 자동화된 작업을 만드실 수가 있고요. 특히 프리즘 프로의 지능형 분석 알고리즘인 XPC라는 것이 있고요. 그 기반으로 성능을 이상 감지해서 자동화된 트리거를 발생시키고 그 발생된 트리거로 인해서 조치를 자동화 처리되는 부분까지 저희가 제공을 하고 있습니다.
그러면 그 VM별로, 가상머신별로 각종 이벤트를 설정해서 메일로 이렇게 받아서 자동화가 가능할까요? 또한 그 가상머신에서 사용하는 CPU 사용률이나 메모리 사용률, 그런 것들을 어떤 조치를 할 수 있도록 자동 설정할 수 있습니까?
네, 가능합니다. 저희 엑스플레이 운영 자동화 기능을 통해서요. 얼럿이나 이벤트 기반으로 처리가 자동화가 가능하다고 말씀을 드렸는데요. 예를 들어서 가상머신의 CPU와 메모리 사용률이 임계치 이상, 예를 들어서 사용률이 100% 이상을 유지를 했을 때 어떤 액션을 취할 수 있도록 저희가 조치를 할 수가 있습니다. 그래서 사용자, 운영자가 이슈가 생겼을 때 직접 조치를 취하는 것이 아니고 그 전에 이제 인지를 하고 저희가 CPU를 늘린다거나 메모리를 늘린다거나 이런 리소스를 증가시켜서 자동 처리를 가능하도록 하고 있고요. 그리고 이런 부분들을 다양한 방법으로 이제 자동화해서 다른 쪽 얼럿이나 메일이나 그리고 운영자한테 연락을 드릴 수 있는 조치를 취하실 수가 있습니다.
그러면은 뭐 많은 부분이 자동화가 되는 것 같은데 어떤 특정 시점에 반복되는 작업들을 또 자동화할 수 있습니까?
네, 그것 또한 가능합니다. 스케줄 기반으로 저희가 자동화 기능을 만드실 수가 있고요. 예를 들어서 매일 아침에 이제 하루 동안의 저희 인프라의 리소스 사용률을 리포트를 받아본다거나 그리고 이제 지난 한 주간의 추이 분석을 보통 운영자분들이 많이 필요로 하시는데요. 저희가 이제 운영 자동화 기능을 통해서 하루마다 리포트를 생성하고 그 생성된 리포트를 운영자분의 메일로 전송시켜서 매일 아침에 직접 받아보실 수 있도록 저희가 작업을 정의하실 수 있고요. 이 외에도 가상머신의 보안 설정 스크립트 혹은 가상머신 초기 구성 이런 단순 반복 작업을 대해서도 저희가 터미널로 접속해서 스크립트를 수행하거나 API를 호출하거나 그런 기능들을 만드실 수가 있습니다.
엑스플레이에 대해서 좀 제가 들어보니까 운영 환경에서 다양하게 활용할 수도 있을 것 같아요. 다른 방법으로 다양하게. 아마 오늘 발표를 듣고 계신 IT 운영자분들께서 고민 중인 부분들을 해결할 수 있을 것이라고 또 생각되는 부분들도 많이 있는데 다음으로는 어플리케이션에 대한 자동화에 대한 질문을 좀 드려보겠습니다. 어플리케이션이 자동화된 배포를 할 때 어떤 장점들이 있습니까?
인프라 운영 담당자는 시스템의 운영뿐만 아니고 각 부서와 사용자들의 요청으로 리소스를 생성해서 제공해주는 또 반복적인 작업들이 가지고 있고요. 그런 작업들을 줄인다면 자동화해서 줄일 수 있다면 운영자분들의 작업, 업무 자체를 줄일 수가 있죠. 이런 애플리케이션의 구성을 사용자가 직접 선택하고 배포할 수 있는 환경이 있다고 한다면 운영자는 더 많은 시간들을 진짜 필요한 작업에, 업무에 쓸 수 있도록 시간을 벌 수가 있습니다. 특히 이제 뉴타닉스는 애플리케이션 마켓플레이스라는 것도 제공을 하고 있는데요. 고객이 사용자가 필요한 어플리케이션을 미리 사전에 등록을 해놓고요. 필요할 때마다 배포해서 사용하실 수 있도록 도와드리고 있습니다. 이러한 환경들을 사용하시는 것은 결국 클라우드처럼 저희 뉴타닉스 인프라를 사용하실 수 있는 환경이 온프라미스의 프라이빗 환경에 구성된다고 보시면 될 것 같아요.
또 클라우드라고 한다면 다양한 프라이빗 인프라와 그 퍼블릭 클라우드의 연동에도 제한이 좀 없어야 된다고 생각을 하는데 어플리케이션 배포 자동화는 뉴타닉스 HCI 환경에만 배포가 된다는 건가요?
물론 애플리케이션 자동화 부분만 말씀드리면 아니라고 말씀드릴 수가 있고요. 저희 애플리케이션 배포 자동화는 저희 뉴타닉스 HCI 인프라뿐만 아니고요. 퍼블릭 클라우드, AWS나 GCP, 애저 등의 다양한 퍼블릭 사업자에도 배포를 하실 수가 있습니다. 그리고 타사 가상화 솔루션인 하이퍼바이저에도 저희 거를 이용해서 어플리케이션을 배포하실 수가 있고요. 하나의 어플리케이션 구성 정보를 만드셨다면 저희가 그걸 블루프린트라고 말씀드리고 있는데요. 그 블루프린트를 가지고 다양한 환경에 동일한 설정과 동일한 구성으로 쉽게 배포하실 수 있습니다.
그럼 또 어플리케이션을 관리를 하는 것에 대한 자동화를 위해서 또 특별히 제공되는 부분들이 어떤 것이 있을까요?
일단 어플리케이션이 필요한 가상머신의 이미지가 있을 거고요. 그 어플리케이션이 필요로 하는 설치 파일들, 보통 패키지 파일 혹은 바이너리 파일이라고 얘기를 하고 있는데요. 그런 파일들과 네트워크 설정, 웹 서비스, 와스 서비스, 그 데이터베이스 서비스를 서로 연동하는 의존성 설정하는 부분들까지 자동화하실 수가 있고요. 필요에 따라서 이제 스케일업, 이제 리소스가 사용자가 많이 들어올 때 웹 서버를 늘린다거나 와스 서버를 늘리는 그런 스케일 아웃 설정도 하실 수가 있습니다. 전체적인 라이프 사이클을 관리하는 부분이기 때문에 뭐 생성, 삭제, 그리고 종료 이런 업무적인 것들도 지원을 하고 있습니다.
다른 어플리케이션 자동화 툴도 제가 좀 많이 들어봤던 것 같은데 뉴타닉스가 제공하는 애플리케이션 자동화 솔루션의 어떤 특징이라고 한다면 어떤 것들이 더 있을까요?
네, 뭐 시중에는 이제 많은 자동화 솔루션이 있고 오픈 소스도 있죠. 그래서 이제 뭐 많은 고객들이 이미 사용하시고도 계시는데 저희 뉴타닉스의 자동화 부분은 이제 쉽게 구성해서 사용하실 수 있다는 거고요. 저희 뉴타닉스 HCI 즉 프리즘 환경에서 쉽게 이네이블만 하시면 어플리케이션 배포 자동화 부분을 해보실 수가 있습니다. 또한 일반 시중에 있는 자동화 솔루션들은 개발자 위주의 솔루션인 경우가 많아요. 그래서 개발자 친화적인 언어들을 사용해서 자동화를 제공을 하는데 저희 뉴타닉스는 그것뿐만 아니고 인프라 엔지니어들을 위한, 인프라 운영자들을 위한 배시나 파워쉘 이런 다양한 스크립트 랭귀지도 제공을 하고 있습니다. 그래서 인프라 운영자, 개발자 모두 쉽게 자동화를 하실 수 있도록 저희가 제공을 하고 있습니다.
마지막 질문 좀 드리겠습니다. 뉴타닉스가 자동화 기능을 고려해 보려고 할 때 그 IT 인프라가 어느 정도 사이즈로 시작할 때 가장 효과가 좋을까요? 소규모도 가능합니까?
소규모도 가능하고요. 대부분 자동화라고 하면은 대규모 인프라에 대해서만 자동화를 고민을 많이 하시는데 사실 실제로 소규모일수록 더 자동화가 필요하다고 봅니다. 왜냐하면은 그런 소규모의 인프라 환경에서는 한 명의 운영자가 다양한 인프라를 관리하고 또 다양한 업무들이 있기 때문에 실제로 이슈가 있거나 장애가 있을 때 대응하기가 쉽지 않고요. 그리고 대부분 또 원격지에 있는 장비가 있기 때문에 직접 컨트롤하는 게 쉽지가 않습니다. 그래서 이런 부분들을 자동화한다면 오히려 소규모 사업장에서도 더 많은 도움이 되실 수 있고요. 뭐 대규모 사업장, 대규모 인프라 환경이라고 그러면 더할 나위가 없죠.
네, 지금까지는 IT 운영 자동화에 대한 세션이었습니다. 이어지는 세션에서는 테스트 드라이브를 직접 해보실 수 있는 방법들을 소개시켜드릴 예정입니다. 직접 한번 해보신다면 뉴타닉스 운영 자동화를 쉽게 여러분이 시작할 수 있을 기회가 될 것이라고 생각합니다.